Welcome to That Groovy Scoobcast, the go-to audio hub for all things Scooby-Doo.
My name's Derek.
And I'm Shannon.
We're excited to kick off season 4 today, but we have a bit of a ghost problem at the moment.
Derek, a non-material embodiment or essence or organism that is seen as a specter, wraith, or apparition has been scientifically proven to be sheer myth. In other words, there's no such thing as a ghost.
Yeah, but does the ghost know that? Hey guys, welcome back.
Hey!
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm awesome. We're about to start season 4. We got fireworks blowing up outside, and
It's the 4th of July.
I know. Right? Did you just hear one right now?
There you go.
There you go. I'm not editing that one out.
No, you guys are gonna probably hear a lot of that because there's gonna be a lot of it.
I'm going to try my best to edit because, you know, I like to edit. I don't like to edit. I don't know why I said that. I just lied to all of you.
Lying.
Well, we wanted to, first and foremost, congratulate Shane Lee Miller. He was our randomized winner from last season for the prize of the Scooby-Doo socks and those rubber bracelets, because he suggested that we watch Haunted House Hang-Up for this season's review of a Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode. So, again, congrats, Shane. Thank you for giving us this episode. Don't know if we really liked it. Shannon and I really haven't shared our thoughts with each other yet.
I am curious as to why you suggested this episode.
He said it's one of his favorites.
I'm curious as to why it's one of your favorites.
Well, before we start that conversation, we are going to kick off our Season 4 Mystery Machine Match. For those who have not joined our podcast before, the Mystery Machine Match is our weekly trivia competition, where Shannon and I try to figure out which one of us knows Scooby-Doo better than the other. We each ask each other 3 trivia questions regarding Scooby-Doo in its entirety, and we just try and outsmart each other. There's another firework. I love it. So Shannon, you were the winner last season.
Hell yeah.
The first 2 seasons, I won. So that was a pretty big deal for you, huh?
Yeah.
And are you thinking...
we tied one season.
No, we came close to tying, and I beat you. That was season 2.
Okay.
So how are you feeling about kicking off the season 4 one?
I don't know. I'm hoping after 4 seasons, I've collected some type of knowledge, but when you come down to think about it, like, yeah, we've watched a lot of episodes, yeah, we've done a lot of episodes, but all in all, we've only seen 4 episodes of each series.
Yeah.
So I really still haven't seen that much of it.
Yeah, right.
So I get frustrated because I'm like, we're on season 4. Like, why don't I remember more? But, like, we really haven't seen that much of it. So I'm hoping that I remember enough, at least for my childhood. And it is starting to come back as we do more seasons. So I'm hopeful, but it's the first episode. We'll see.
All right. Well, as always, Shannon, you can ask the first question today.
In the episode Wax World, Shaggy, Scooby-Doo, and Scrappy meet the villainous wax monster in what European city?
Shit. There's a lot of those.
Yeah,
There's
like all of Europe.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't even give me, like, a specific country or anything like that. It's just like, so I want you to pick, Europe. It's a continent. It's a whole collection of countries. Pick a city out of it.
Just
any
pick
city.
one, yeah.
Anyone. Paris.
No.
It wasn't Paris?
It was London.
That was dumb. I didn't like that one. Well, here is your first question. Scooby-Dum is Scooby-Doo's uncle or cousin?
Cousin.
Yes, you are correct.
We just
We
talked
just
about
talked
that.
about this. Yeah, because we were talking about that Scooby-Dum
Yeah.
Funko over there on my shelf.
Actually, just a couple minutes ago, we talked
Literally,
about
not
this.
even kidding.
If I got that wrong, I'd be really worried.
Yes, me too. What's your next question for me?
Charles Roven, one of the producers of the Scooby-Doo movie, also produced what George Clooney movie, 3 Kings or Ocean's 11?
I don't know anything about anything.
They didn't just remake it.
So the Three Kings?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That was actually helpful.
Because I was like, I know, like, you just watched the new one, or we talked
I've heard
about
it,
yeah.
yes. Okay, here's your next question. In the Scooby-Doo movie, whose body does Fred's soul go into when he can't get into his own?
Oh, shit.
I'll give you a little bit of a hint. It's the initial time that he goes into someone's body.
Like the first time?
Yeah, because they all switch bodies. Like...
Okay, so then isn't it Velma?
No, it was Daphne.
Oh, okay, because see, I knew it was one of them because I remember him, like, being like, oh, I have boobs.
Yeah, it was Daphne because he was just like, I can look at myself naked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great.
But I knew that, like, Velma was one of the first people that, like, they found.
Well, no, because she was possessed by one of the demons in that.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's where I was thinking. Okay.
I don't know. What's your last question for me today?
Dusk, one of the Hex girls from Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, plays what instrument? Drums or the keyboard?
She plays the drums.
Yes.
Here is your last question. Where does the gang encounter the spooky space kook? An airfield or a shipyard?
No, we haven't seen this one yet.
It's a classic. I mean, I don't know.
A shipyard.
Nope, it was an airfield. They were on an Air Force base.
I don't think I've ever seen that episode. I'm going to be 100% honest.
I don't know. It's, in my opinion, it's not really a special episode. I don't know. Well, it looks like today I'm finishing off with 2 points and you got 1. So...
Woohoo!
Yay. We'll see what this season has to offer in terms of the Mystery Machine match. Ready to move on to our review of Haunted House Hang-Up?
Of course.
Okay. Our premise for today's episode is coming from Scoobypedia. Mystery Inc. is headed to a rock festival down some deserted back roads when they run into a farmer who warns them about a haunted mansion up ahead. They head up to the mansion where a Headless Specter roams the grounds, and the gang must find out who is behind it and why. So, initial thoughts on the episode?
Confusing?
Why?
I mean, not confusing, but just, like, random. Like, there was just a lot of random stuff that happened.
It's weird because I feel like the gang spends most of the episode separated.
Yeah, which is something,
about it.
Like, we complain about that when we watch, like, the Scooby-Doo movies.
Yeah.
So it was weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, in my opinion, the episode was just overall kind of uneventful.
Mm-hmm.
I just, like, whenever I think back to this episode, I can't think of anything that really ever happens in it other than when Scooby, Shaggy, and the Headless Specter are floating on the balloons out of the well.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can ever remember. But, like, I don't hold a lot of, like, resentment towards the episode. I just don't think it's that memorable of one.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm not mad at the episode. It's just...
I don't think it's anything special. The first thing we see is the Haunted Mansion itself. This is where we're going to be spending today, tonight. Yeah. The house looks like shit because everything in the Scooby-Doo Where Are You universe looks like shit.
It does. It looks so run down, so just gross. It then, like, zooms in and we see, like, a candle. Well, it looks like an orb at first, and then, like,
yeah,
we
then you see
that
it's a candle.
Yeah.
There's, like, an eerie white hand holding it.
And then it, like, zooms out a little bit, and we see that it's just this headless guy walking around his house.
It doesn't even zoom out. It actually just does a weird, like, green screen transition kind of thing that just slides across the screen.
Yeah, the transitions were weird.
Didn't they do that in the Tiki Scares No Fair episode 2?
Yeah.
Like, is that just a season 2 Where Are You thing? Like,
they just used PowerPoint to make these?
PowerPoint wasn't a thing, but yeah, it's the same idea. I don't know. But then, like, also the Headless Specter, he just kind of stops. He's holding his candle, and then he just starts, like, fanning himself.
Yeah.
I'm like,
okay.
Are you hot, dude? Like, turn on a fan.
Like, that's cool.
Put out your candle, because that's heat. Change your outfit, because
you're headless.
It's like midnight and you're in a suit. But, lots of ways you can get around that. We cut to the gang. They are on their way to this music festival.
A rock music festival.
I know. And, the premise said that they're, like, taking the back streets and everything like that. And it's like, why?
Because they're really not afraid of anything. So, like, why not?
So, Scooby and Shaggy are, like, in the back of the van, and they're playing instruments. And I had 2 questions. One, are they performing in this rock festival?
I asked the same thing. Like, in my notes, I asked, are Scooby and Shaggy performing?
And then also my question is, if they are, why? Because they suck.
Well, and also, like, they're both playing the drums, right?
I didn't write down what they played.
Yeah, I know.
All I remember is that Scooby was banging his drumsticks on Shaggy's head, because that's fine.
I don't know. It was weird.
I mean, the rest of the gang is chilling and, they're enjoying the music for a reason.
Velma and Daphne were, like, smiling and nodding along, and they were enjoying it.
Yeah. Fred says that they don't know where they are because typical Fred doesn't know where the fuck he ever is, ever.
I do want to pause to, like, talk shit about Fred real quick.
Can we please? Because I always want to talk shit about Fred.
Because, like, okay, Fred. So you don't know where you are. Later in this episode, we find out you're almost out of gas. And also, later on in this episode, your car overheats and you're stranded by a haunted house.
You did this to yourself.
Like, what the fuck? Okay.
What was his long-term goal here? Like, because he doesn't know where he is. They don't have cell phones. What the fuck are you gonna do?
Fred literally reminds me of you and me when we used to go on, like, just stupid road trips all the time.
In high school,
yeah.
Yes.
And, like, I guess they are in high school, so, like, this is just them being, like...
But this is also a different time period,
no,
too.
I know.
Because they don't know where they are. They
but,
don't
like,
have,
that's
like,
the
Google
thing.
Maps or anything.
It reminds me of the time that we went on the road trip, and you were like, oh, we're almost out of gas. And then we passed that gas station. We were like, oh, we're gonna... Because it was creepy looking. And we were like, oh, we'll see if there's another one.
And there wasn't.
So we turned around and went there. And the girl was like, oh, yeah, we're the only gas station for, like, 50 miles either way. And we were like, well, fuck, I'm glad we stopped. Like, that's what this reminds me of. It's just like... Fred, like, come on, man. Like,
they do stop because they see a sign. They think the sign is going to indicate where
something.
they are.
Except
maybe
the sign is, like, broken and laying on the ground.
And it's covered in bush. Like, how did you see this sign? Because it's also nighttime. Like, so they stop. Shaggy pokes his head out and he says that he hopes that it's not an ad for shaving cream.
I'd like to know the joke behind that, because it
Is
wasn't
it just
funny.
saying that Shaggy doesn't like to shave? Like, is he just a dirty person?
I mean, yeah.
Yes, I guess. I mean, we've joked before that, he does drugs, like poi. He's a dirty wizard.
We also watched an episode last season where they got arrested for marijuana.
And he barks at people.
He does bark at people. So,
I mean, I guess shaving cream being something he doesn't want to be around isn't that far-fetched.
I guess not.
So they're
we'll
all
add it to the long list of weird things.
They're all out of the van now. They're trying to read the sign. It doesn't say anything because it's not legible, because I'm not surprised.
Also, Shaggy's face disappeared.
Yeah, okay, so a man appears with a lantern. Daphne identified him. Like, there's someone coming. Like, can we not?
Which, like, same.
Yeah, right, because again, they don't know where they are. It's the middle of the night. They're teenagers. But yeah, there was a point where I, like, it zoomed out and Shaggy's whole face was just gone. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. Scooby-Doo, where are you? Being Scooby-Doo, where are you? I wrote that Scooby and Shaggy hate him, and I don't know why. This is something I wrote down. I wrote, Shaggy and Scooby hate him, I think. I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that.
I don't know, because I don't know when they, like, acknowledge that.
But Velma asks who this man is. His name is Asia Shanks. And he explains that, he's, like, from the area. Fred asks him for the nearest directions to this one, like, interstate that they're supposed to take in order to get to the festival.
Yeah.
Asia says that there are 2 ways to get there. There's going to be a fork up the road. You can either take the left, which is going to be the long way around, or you take the right, which is the short way.
Can we also talk about the fact that he was basically just like, so you're going to go straight and then there's going to be a fork in the road?
Yeah.
And then that was it. Like, that was all he was willing to say. And then
Velma... Because Velma had to ask him more questions. I'm like, so when we get to the fork of the road, which way do we take?
Yeah, it was just like, what do we do then? It's just like, oh, right.
That's also part of the directions. They do say they're going to take the short way because, they're trying to get to this festival. And he's like,
they're almost out of gas.
And they're almost out of gas. And he's like, well, I would suggest that you take the long way, if I were you. And they're like, why? And he's like, well, there's a haunted mansion if you turn right. It's like, oh, cool. Like why did you even mention it then? Like, just say that to take the left.
Just be like,
they don't know.
No, they're not from the area.
They don't have a map.
And then also keep in mind, like, if he had said that to any other person on the planet, they would have been like, okay, we'll take the long way.
Right, because they're not mystery solvers.
Yeah, but you literally said it to the worst possible group of kids, where they were like, haunted house.
Like, they all got a boner right now just thinking about it.
They were just like,
Well, it's funny because they weren't initially even going to take that way because they get to the fork later on and they flip a coin for it.
Yeah.
But aside from that,
they actually flipped bologna with mustard for it.
Oh, right. But before we get to that, I just wanted to say, because Asia also explains that the mansion is haunted by the Headless Specter. It's interesting because the Headless Specter is the supernatural presence in the episode.
Yeah.
However, it's not a villain, technically. Asia is our villain, technically, for the episode.
Yeah.
We'll explain, as the episode goes on. But in my mind, because we watched this episode, 3 times?
Yes.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the third watching where I'm thinking about it. I'm like, so wait, Asia's explaining to the gang the existence of the Headless Specter. And he's not bringing it up because he's trying to scare them, as in he's secretly thinking I'm the Headless Specter, don't go to the house.
Yeah.
He genuinely evidently thinks that the Headless Specter is a thing.
I mean, and if you think about it, every city or small town, whatever, has a little folklore.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a native and that's all you've known your whole life, you're probably gonna believe it.
But it's not that new of a legend either, from what I can tell.
How long? What was?
Because the person who it turns out to be the Headless Specter, what's his name?
Because the folklore started when the guy died, right?
No, that was just the riddle to find the treasure. The Headless Specter was invented by Penrod Stillwell, the descendant of Jefferson. Yeah. No, that wasn't created by Jefferson.
Okay.
So the Headless Specter is relatively new.
Okay.
So, I don't know how long the Headless Specter has been around, but it's a newer thing. And I'm imagining that Asia only knows about it because he's also in the house fucking shit up with his axe.
Yeah.
I noted that Asia, for some reason, blows out his lantern. Even though, he walked up with his lantern already lit. So, are you just going to walk home in the dark?
It's dark.
And he walks away. And they do this weird thing where he fades and he's just gone. It's like he's a ghost. And it's
spoopy.
Great. Ooh, yeah, spoopy whoopy. But the gang decides that when they get to the fork, they don't have a coin or anything. So Shaggy takes a piece of bologna. He spreads some mustard on one side. And whatever side it lands on, based on, the mustard, is the way they're going to go. I think it was the mustard was that they go right.
Yeah, he was
take the shorter way.
He goes mustard up, they go right.
And I eat it.
And I eat it. Or mustard down, we go left, and I eat it.
And I eat it. Velma's pissed about this.
Yeah,
she's just the stupid logic. I'm going to go with it, but I'm not happy about it. He flips it, and when it lands, Scooby eats it. Because, of course. Scooby's nose now has the mustard on it, so they kind of just accept that as being the mustard up, and they take the right way.
And also, Fred kind of just vetoed everything and was like, well, we're going the short way because we're almost out of gas.
He was secretly hoping.
Yeah. He was just I'm going to let you do whatever, and then I'm going to veto because we're almost out of gas.
He didn't even need to veto. He could have just been the tiebreaker because Daphne and Velma wanted to go the right way, and Shaggy and Scooby wanted to go the left. So, Fred, just tiebreak. You didn't need to flip a coin.
No, you could have just, not been an asshole.
They, now they're continuing on the short path. They're low on gas. And now the van is just suddenly overheating. There's just steam filling the entire van.
And then Fred...
So, this is an unrelated problem from the fact that you're low on gas. The van's just being a piece of shit right now.
Which we know the van is old.
Yes.
So, not surprised, but still disappointed.
Apparently the engine is in the back of the Mystery Machine in this episode.
Yeah, but even though we've, seen the back of the Mystery Machine.
Several times, even in this series where they open it from the back, and that's not where the engine is.
Well, and also, Scooby and Shaggy were just
in the back.
Sitting back there.
Right. Fred says, hey, well, can you go get some water for Old Faithful here? Come on, let's cool it down. I'm like, okay, well, it's not going to fix your gas problem.
No, you're still out of gas. Well, and also, I love the fact that he called Mystery Machine Old Faithful because, yeah, she's old, but she's not very faithful. No. Because she just broke down on you.
Well, it's Fred's fault. It's not really the van's fault because Fred's just not good at taking care of his car.
Fred, you need to go get an oil change. You need to, get a car wash.
Get your car together, man.
Yeah.
So I just wrote down, let's just trespass on someone's property and steal water from his well. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because they ended up stopping in front of the Haunted Mansion. Not really realizing that's the Haunted Mansion, but incidentally that's where they stop because of course. So Shaggy goes to get the water. They go to the well. And while they're pulling up the water, that's when a ghost floats out of the well and it scares them. And, we'll later find out it's just a balloon underneath a sheet. But Shaggy and Scooby lose their shit and they hop in this, like, it was like a trough or something. And they end up, like, just running it into the front of the Mystery Machine and it just breaks apart.
Which, of course.
They bring the rest of the gang over to the well to show them where the ghost was, and they all look like down in the well, and Velma's like, oh, just what we figured, a Scooby ghost.
Which I assume, like, I want to, like, believe that that's what they just call, like, fake ghosts. It's just, oh, it's Scooby Ghost. You're just seeing things.
Shaggy was just like, it was really here. And that's when Velma just goes full on fucking scientific.
She goes off.
Like, you guys heard our intro. So that's how she responds to Shaggy. She's like, Shaggy, the existence and embodiment and, of any kind of organism or apparition and blah, 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 has been scientifically proven to be a myth, and just goes on. I know that when she's going on, Daphne's just looking at her like, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I am too. Like, Daphne, I completely agree with you.
It's just, I loved Fred and Daphne's face throughout this entire episode.
They had a lot of funny moments.
Because it was just, Daphne, I felt like they weren't as interested in her animation, because there were times where, like, Fred and Velma would walk away and Daphne would just be, like, still standing there. Or, like, Daphne would just be, like, really still with her mouth just wide open. And it was just, like, what is happening?
Right.
Yeah. And then a lot of times Fred just looked, like, bored or pissed off. Like, their facial
expressions were really funny.
They were great.
Daphne identifies a light in the mansion, and oh, this is what I wrote. I wrote, Daphne identifies light in the mansion after Velma womansplains the non-existence of ghosts.
That's fair.
So they enter the house.
So now they're breaking and entering.
Yes. I mean, they knocked first at least. I mean, in their mind, that's fine. They enter, and all they see is a candle just chilling on the table in the living room. It starts floating.
And chasing them.
Yep.
What irritates me is at the end of the chase, like, they all run into this room, and then Scooby, like, turns around and blows the candle out, and I'm like, no one thought to do that? Like, when it first started chasing you?
I wrote down that Velma says very matter-of-factly that ghosts don't need candles.
I mean, can ghosts see in the dark?
I'm not a ghost. I don't know.
I'll let you know when I die.
Okay, thanks.
BRB.
So they're in this room. They're hiding from that candle. Shaggy and Scooby find a portrait of a man named Jefferson Stillwell. His name's, like, on the bottom on the frame. And he is pointing to his right in the portrait.
Yeah.
So, like, I wonder what he's pointing at. And Shaggy's like trying to point and, like, figure out where it is, even though he's pointing in the completely wrong direction. But when they look back, now the man's head is gone.
How?
I don't know.
It's also never explained.
I mean, we do learn that it was something that the descendant of Jefferson Stillwell was doing. Like, he did rig it to do that, but he didn't say how. I would love to know how. Like, did the portrait just, like, do, like, a flip or something? Like, I would love to know. My next note is that Daphne is actually useless in this episode. I don't know why I wrote that.
I mean, okay, you know that I do love Daphne. She is.
Yeah,
useless.
Where Are You, Daphne is awful.
Because they're very uninterested in her.
Mm-hmm. They do try to, like, show Daphne and the rest of the gang, like, that portrait. Yeah. And, of course, the head is back because naturally. And then, while they're, like, going to continue looking throughout the house, because I think they're starting to hear a noise throughout the house. Yeah,
it's like a banging or knocking or something. A banging
sound, yes. We do cut and see the Headless Specter. He knows that they're in the house now. And he walks through, like, this, like, hallway behind the walls. He enters a different room and he pulls out a box. And he does this little laugh because that's really all he does. So the gang follow the banging sound to this one room. They open it and all they see in the room is that box. So they approach it. They're all looking at the box like, what's in it? And Fred's like, do we have any volunteers on who wants to open it? And Shaggy, like, tickles Scooby's ear in order to trick Scooby into raising his paw.
Yeah, because he's a fucking asshole.
Right. So the rest of the gang's like, oh, yay, good going, Scooby. Hooray for Scooby.
You're our hero.
They're all jerks to this dog.
I hate them.
He opens the box very hesitantly, and he finds a head.
And they're all just, like, so whatever about it.
Except Scooby, who faints.
Yeah.
He falls back and faints. I probably would have done the same, given the lore that I've heard about this house.
If I knew that there was, like, a headless guy just wandering around somewhere, and I found a box with a head in it, like, yeah, that'd freak me out, too.
After also seeing a floating candle and a portrait whose head just goes missing sometimes.
And
like,
a ghost in the well.
And that. I mean, yeah, I would also be terrified.
Also, can we talk about, because, like, the ghost in the well was a completely separate guy, wasn't it?
No, it was just the Headless Specter fucking with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, because those were just balloons down in that little wine cellar.
I didn't know if that was, like, Asia or not.
No, I'm pretty sure that was Pendleton.
Okay.
So they look at the head a little further and they realize it's just a wooden head. It's not real. It's made to look like Jefferson Stillwell, the person in the painting that they saw just a moment ago. So they're wondering, like, okay, so someone put this here to scare us. Like, This was very intentional. Whatever they're trying to do, they clearly don't want us here. Did they start hearing a banging noise again? Or were they just going to... Whatever the case, they just continue looking throughout the house. Before they do this, though, Shaggy tries to revive Scooby from his fainting by giving him a Scooby snack. I wrote that Scooby breaks the fourth wall because he kind of, like, winks at the audience.
Yeah.
Just something silly. He does come back. He's fine. But when they go out of the room and they start, like, trying to, follow these footprints that they've now found, the footprints divide into two separate tracks. One foot going one way and the other foot going the other.
Okay. Shaggy makes a comment saying something along the lines of, like, I've seen someone do the splits before, but this is something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
It's never talked about ever again.
No. Because we do know that, like, the floating candle and the painting, those are rigged. Like,
yeah, we also know, like, the helium balloon ghosts.
Like, we don't know how they're doing it to an extent, but we know that someone has taken responsibility for that.
Yeah. We also
the
know
footprints, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, because we also found out that the head in the box is also fake, obviously. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the footprints are the only, like, loose string that we still have.
I would love to know how he did it.
There's a real ghost in the house.
It very well could be.
Jefferson forgot to wipe his feet on the way in.
So they decide to split up to follow the track. So Shaggy, Scooby, and Velma, they take the left track, and Fred and Daphne take the right.
Fred and Daphne go to fuck somewhere.
We don't see them for a while, so we have a whole chase scene.
Without them. So yeah, they very well could have been doing that. So Shaggy, Scooby, and Velma go into this dark room. They don't turn on the lights for reasons. They close the door in this dark room. Because same.
Yeah. And they're all like, ooh, it's dark in here. Like, maybe we should just go back.
Shaggy makes the comment of, what did he say? I feel like someone spilled ink all over me and then let me loose in a coal mine.
I'm like, I don't know what that means, Shaggy.
I don't understand, but sure.
Same. So they decide to start grabbing each other's hands just so they don't lose each other, and they're walking out of the room. When they go back into the hallway, you now see that Shaggy and Velma are each holding one of the Headless Specter's hands. And you said that you saw Velma, like, holding out her hand as if she was trying to grab Scooby's.
Yeah, but she
was... But...
Like, okay, so she had her hand out like she was maybe, like, gonna grab his collar or something. But then, like, you could very clearly see her hand, like
she wasn't
bobbing.
Touching
yeah,
him at
she
all.
wasn't touching him at all. And I was just like, weird, but okay. Like, sure.
So, now the Headless Specter is here. They all freak out. And it begins a chase scene.
A lot of stuff happens.
Something we've mentioned in the season 2 of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? This is when we first start to get the music chase scenes.
Yeah.
This one, I believe the name of the song is just like Love the World or something like that. It's very hippie-ish. I'll insert a bit of the track, right here.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that.
But yeah, they do a bunch of antics throughout the house. They're hiding underneath sheets in a bed.
No. They were not hiding under the sheets in the bed.
They put pillows in place of
because the
them.
headless guy like starts jumping up and down on top of the pillows. Like if they really had been under there, they'd be dead.
They hide in the kitchen at one point. They run past a fireplace and he pops up out of the fireplace. Don't know how he did that.
That was weird. Basically, it ends with them, like, falling in a well.
Yeah, they, like, turn around, like, this spinning wheel thing. They make it into a bike. They drive it right out the window onto a power line. They fall into the well. It's a lot of good fun. So now they're just chilling in the bottom of the well. Shaggy is screaming his head off because he thinks he's drowning, even though the water is not even knee high. And he, like, leans on the wall and accidentally finds, like, a secret passageway.
Yeah, and then he's mad about it. Velma's like, oh, look, it's a secret passageway. And Shaggy's just like, uh-oh. I'm like, you found a way out, dude.
Right, like, otherwise you're stuck in this well.
Like you stay here.
So they decide to go in. We cut to Daphne and Fred. They just finished fucking. And Daphne opens this drawer to, like, this desk or something. And she's like, look, Fred, it's this weird old book. Even though it's next to another book.
Yeah, there's
don't pick
two
up.
books sitting there.
It's like, I don't know what's weird about this one other than it's blue and the other's red, but okay.
I want to know what was in the red book.
Turns out it's a diary. It's a really old diary, too. It's from 1822.
July 2nd, or July 12th, 1822 was the last entry.
So you wrote down what it said, right?
Marching men in a single file hide the secret. Stillwell shows the way.
So it's a riddle. They don't really know what it's to yet. They decide to go and try and find the others, and Fred just trips over a rug and reveals a trapdoor. This house is full of trapdoors and stuff.
Also, like, Fred's irritating. Because, like, they're walking, and then he was just like, oh, and, like, tripped over it. Was just like, oops. And then he opens it up and he goes, okay, be careful. And then Daphne falls down the stairs. And he was like, I said be careful. And I'm like, Fred, 2 seconds ago, you freaking tripped over a rug. So,
right.
like, fuck off.
Right. While they're down there, they are they're in the cellar.
Yeah.
And they hear voices and footsteps up ahead. They grab some jars. They're going to beat the fuck out of somebody.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's actually Shaggy, Velma, and Scooby coming from the well tunnel that they just found. So they've all regrouped. Fred gives Velma the diary so that she can kind of look at the riddle that's in it. They decide that the riddle has something to do with that portrait that we just saw a little bit ago of Stillwell pointing. So they go back to the painting.
Well, and also, when they're in the cellar and they all meet back up, that's when we learn about the helium
Oh,
balloons.
that's right, yes.
So,
Shaggy and Scooby thought it was food.
Yeah, so basically, like, Fred and Daphne were gonna smash these glass bottles on the rest of the gang, and Shaggy and Scooby got excited. They thought it was food, so they started eating it, and it turned out it was helium balloons. So that's when, like, we know that the ghost that they saw earlier was a helium balloon.
Yeah. So they go to investigate that painting. They're looking around the room. They're not really sure what's going on. They realize that the painting where it is pointing out the window at, like, this greenhouse that's off on the side of the house.
Yeah.
Fred very rudely just makes Shaggy and Scooby go out there.
Yeah, basically.
So they do. They go out there and they find a flytrap lily. They decide to give it a snack, a Scooby snack, just to see how it likes it. And it wants more than a Scooby snack. It wants Shaggy.
He wants to eat.
Yep. So they end up getting away. Scooby, like, lands in the Headless Specter's arms, and, you know, it laughs because that's all it does. That's all it does. It's not that threatening of a monster, in my opinion. The Headless Specter.
No, not really.
So they run out. They end up back in the wine cellar, and Shaggy's like, I don't know why we came back down here. I'm like, I don't know why you came back down there either.
Also, I'm pretty sure that, like, they fell back down the well. Like,
so
that's how they got there.
Down the well.
Yeah, like, because I don't think that they, like, went back inside the house and down the trap door. Like, I'm pretty sure they just jumped back down the well and ended up in the cellar.
I know that they know of the existence of the trap door now, but
yeah, because they were already outside, like, from the greenhouse. I don't think they ran back and, like, I'm pretty sure they just jumped down the well.
So they decide, because the Headless Specter has found them, they're going to use the balloons to float out of the well to get away from it.
So maybe they did run down the trapdoor, because then why wouldn't they just run out the... I don't know. It's weird.
Anyway, They're now in the air. They have successfully floated on their balloons to get out of the well.
They look really weird on the balloons.
So does the Headless Specter when it turns out he is also now floating on a balloon.
Yeah.
So they're like screaming their heads off. I would be too.
I mean, I'm 1,000 feet up in the air, and there's also a Headless Specter, like, trying to kill me. Like, I'd be a little nervous.
Fred, Daphne, and Velma walk out of the house, and Fred's like, oh shit, like, there actually is a Headless Specter. And I didn't really realize it until this point. It's like, yeah, actually, Fred and Daphne haven't ever seen it yet.
No, because they were off fucking for half the episode.
Right. The Headless Specter gets close to Shaggy. He kicks Shaggy's balloon into Scooby's, and Scooby's goes, and it, like, gets punctured by this, like, pointy compass thing that's on top of the farm.
It's one of those, like, yeah, it's one of those, like, chicken wind
I don't know
mill
what they're
things.
called.
It shows, like, what direction the wind is blowing.
Yeah, I don't know what those things are called. But anyway, his balloon gets popped. He ends up flying backwards into Shaggy, who then goes back and flies into the Headless Specter. They all land in a chicken coop. The chickens break their fall. I'm assuming some chickens died.
Yeah.
So I just think it's funny that the very first instance that Fred and Daphne see the Headless Specter, it's caught. It's like, oh, it was an accident too, right? Yeah. So they learn that the Headless Specter is actually Penrod Stillwell. He is a descendant of Jefferson Stillwell. He explains that he is the great-great-grandson of him. And he invented the legend of the Headless Specter to scare people away while he is trying to find this treasure that evidently was left behind for his family. So he's not doing anything bad. I mean, he just doesn't want people trespassing on his property, which people are doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, just get the fuck out of my house. Like, leave me
alone. And I mean, that's fair because, like, he's hunting for essentially his treasure. Like, it's not, you know, it's not like he's trying to steal it or whatever. Like, it's his. It's
rightfully his.
Yeah, he's just trying to find it. And he's trying to do it, like, on his own property, on his own time. And, like, people just keep showing up and he's like, can you maybe not?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I would have just called the police first before anything. Because he's also hearing banging in the house.
Yeah.
So he knows someone else is in it. And he thought it was the gang. And that's why he was terrorizing the gang the whole time.
Yeah. Turns out it was an Axeman.
Yes. Before we get to the Axeman, though, I had a couple notes. Penrod says that he did rig those candles in the painting. Doesn't say how he did it. And also, Velma and Daphne, they're like, well, we'll help you find the treasure if you want. And, like, we don't want the money. And I'm like, why?
Right.
I'm like, what?
And even, like, at the end, because spoiler alert, they do find the money. Even at the end, he's like, how can I repay you? And they're just like, no big deal. And it's just like, give me half of that.
Money. I just want so much money.
Like, dude, I did most of the work here.
Right. So they hear the banging again now. So they decide to go back into the house and figure out what's going on. So Fred and Shaggy, they go up into the attic. They find this man. You can clearly see his blue jeans. And he has like a white sheet over him to make him look like a ghost. And he's just whacking at this wall with an axe.
I also loved how cheap his ghost costume was. Like, he just went in the house and cut up some sheets and then, like, grabbed an axe.
My problem, though, with this guy is he has not seen the diary. So he doesn't have the clue as to, like, where the treasure is.
So he's just
randomly just hacking this house apart.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking idiot.
Like, I just show up to your house with an axe and just start fucking...
I'm looking for treasure.
I'm just gonna cut open your walls.
So Fred whistles to get his attention. He sees him.
Why.
Right. And he's just like, Marr! He drops his axe and chases after them.
Which, something scarier would be if they were being chased by an Axeman.
I mean, I get, it's a kid's cartoon. They're probably not going to do that. But I think it would have been a lot more scary if he did.
Because he had the axe in his hand.
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah.
So they run out of the house. Velma and Daphne are right outside the door. And they pull up a rope real quick to trip him.
Yeah.
The ghost guy, he trips, he flies into a column, and the column collapses. I'm concerned how fragile that column is. Because it just
the whole
falls
house is falling apart, to be honest.
I guess so. I get, you have a good point there. That's true. So it turns out the ghost is Asia Shanks, the guy that we met at the beginning of the episode with the lantern. He is Penrod's greedy neighbor, as Penrod said. So he's greedy somehow otherwise, I suppose. Don't know how. And it was pretty self-explanatory. Like, he's just looking throughout the house trying to find the treasure. And it turns out Scooby finds the bag full of cash in the column.
Yeah. So again, like he asks, how can I repay you? And I think it was Shaggy was just like, just point us to the nearest pizza place.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at Derek and I was like, I hope that he bought their pizza.
Because they were eating a pizza when they were driving in the next scene.
2 huge pieces.
They were big. Yeah, it was a big pizza.
So then Daphne brings up a great point of, so, I guess Velma thought that it was in the pillar. And so they were like, but, what about the picture or whatever? So these great Scooby-Doo writers are going to chop it up to someone moved the picture.
Right, because the painting was supposed to point in the direction of the column.
Yeah.
I'm assuming based on what we saw from the house that the painting was originally in the living room where we first saw that candle.
Yeah.
Because then it would have been pointing out the front door, and that column was directly outside the front door.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's where it was, I guess. I really wish that they wouldn't have just chalked it up to, someone moved it at some point.
Because the thing is, like, they still could have used the same, like, little poem thing that they did in the journal. They could have just left out Stillwell shows the way and just left it as, like, marching men in a single file hide the secret.
It would have been maybe cool if, like, they found the diary and for some reason, like, part of the page was ripped out or something.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Asia kind of had an idea of where it was and
he
took what he thought was important out of the riddle when it turns out he needed the whole thing or something. I don't know. We're just speculating on how it could have been better. But yeah, it kind of just chalks it up to, it was moved. It was just moved. And I wrote down that kind of just negates the entire significance of the painting itself.
Yeah.
That it was moved. It's like, okay. All it really did then was just scare the shit out of Shaggy and Scooby when the head went missing.
Well, and also, what was the point of making the head missing?
I think it was just to,
scare people?
Well, no, I think it was just supposed to amplify the legend of the Headless Specter itself.
I guess.
Because the way I keep calling him Pendleton, his name is Penrod. Because the way Penrod was dressed as the Headless Specter, he was dressed in the same clothes as Jefferson Stillwell was in his portrait. Which I guess is supposed to, make people think that the Headless Specter is Jefferson Stillwell. I don't know why he's missing his head. I would love to know that story.
He was a witch.
Yeah, let's just go with that. So that just concludes the episode. That was Haunted House Hang-Up. Shannon, after all of that, what was your rating on the Scooby Snackometer for it?
I gave it a 3.
Okay. Talk it out.
I just wasn't impressed.
No.
I mean, it was, like, okay, but really, like, nothing significant. All the clues kind of led to nothing. The candle chasing the gang was kind of pointless. The head missing in the painting was kind of pointless. Obviously the poem that we find in the diary isn't helpful. The head in the box, like, I get that, like, if somebody's, like, poking around and they find that, that'd be scary. The footprints are never explained. The Axeman, Asia, hiding under, like, a cheap sheet was kind of stupid. Helium balloons in the well, I will say, are kind of interesting, but I don't know, like, it's just, there were so many random things too, just like the greenhouse with the man-eating plant and, like, just the chicken coop. It kind of made me laugh, though, because the house is falling apart so significantly, and Penrod is keeping chickens and plants alive.
Yeah, he's staying there, evidently.
Yeah, so it was just, it's very, like, odd to me that, like, you can keep up with chickens and with plants, and, like, plants are hard sometimes, and you're also searching for a treasure and also, like, not cleaning up the house at all.
He's ignoring it by keeping his head underneath his shirt.
Because, like, if you think about it, if he had been paying attention, like, if he had been just, keeping up with the house and making it, decent, he would have replaced those, like, rods in the, on the porch.
Oh, the columns?
Yeah, he would have replaced the columns, and when they replaced them, he would have found the money ages ago, So, I don't know, it was just, there was a lot of, like, pointless stuff and just stuff that didn't really impress me. But I didn't hate it, I'm not mad at it, but I'm just like, I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay. I'm actually going a little higher than you. I'm giving it a 5.
Okay.
I think the reason why I'm going with a 5 as my neutral rating for the episode is because it's not great. It's nothing impressive. We've seen impressive Where Are You episodes now where we've seen like Jeepers It's the Creeper.
Yeah.
With this episode, I think that while there was a mystery, it just didn't really have a lot of things going for it to where the clues lined up with what was actually going on anymore. Kind of like what you said, where the painting was moved. So like, what's the point of what's the significance of the painting now?
Yeah.
Because then it makes the riddle not mean anything. And not to mention that the lore of the Headless Specter is completely independent of the actual villain, which is interesting in my opinion. I think that's what's catching me and making me... Because I originally wanted to give this episode a 4. Mm-hmm. But I think what's giving me the idea to give it a 5 is that it kind of does the bait and switch where the villain, the quote-unquote villain, the supernatural presence of the episode being the Headless Specter, isn't actually the person going to jail today.
Yeah.
It's, some other unrelated person who evidently has bought into the legend of the Headless Specter himself. But I do think that there are some lazy parts in this episode too that just doesn't really justify it going any higher than a 5. So, I mean, that's my opinion. I don't think it's a bad episode. It's just kind of this is what it is. And, Yeah. So with your 3, my 5, we are going to award Haunted House Hang Up a 4 out of 10 on the Scooby Snackometer.
All right.
So, you ready for a fun fact?
Of course.
It's actually about this episode. This is the very first time where the villain of the episode was not the monster.
Yeah.
It's not that impressive of a fun fact, I guess, but neither is this episode. So, but yeah, it was the very first time where the supernatural presence of the episode was not actually a villainous person. Because like we said, Penrod was just doing it so that he can try and scare people away from his property so he can, find what rightfully belongs to him.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not mad at Penrod. Like,
no, I'm not.
He does
I think he could have just called the police and handled it a little more like an adult, but I mean, whatever, my opinion, I guess. Yeah, that's the first time that we see that. And there are other times that I can think of throughout, Scooby-Doo's history where it does this, but it doesn't do it often. So I think that that's why I kind of wanted to point out that this is the very first time it ever does happen. Which, it saved it from getting a 4 from me. So
yeah,
there's that. Next week, we'll be moving on to an episode from the new Scooby-Doo movies. Notoriously our least favorite series that we review on this podcast.
Yeah.
Shannon, you ready to randomize what we'll be watching next week?
I guess so.
Okay, here we go.
Next week, we will be reviewing The Spooky Fog of Juneberry.
Featuring Don Knotts.
Ew.
Here is a premise for the episode, again coming from Scoobypedia. When the gang get pulled over by a local police officer, Don Knotts, they spend the night in the city. But it doesn't take long before the gang find another strange mystery.
Ooh.
Well, guess we have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
In Scooby-Dooby news, it's not really news in general for Scooby-Doo, but it's actually kind of news for us. This is going to be the very first season on That Groovy Scoobcast where we review an episode from the Scooby-Doo Guess Who series that's on the Boomerang app.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. Because I hate the movies.
From what I've seen on social media, I have been seeing positive feedback. So I'm also curious to see what it has in store for us when we do get down to that episode. It won't be for a while, but just so you guys are able to look forward to that when the time comes. We're really excited.
We're giving you another episode this season.
So if you want to reach out to us about the Haunted House Hang-Up or the Spooky Fog of Juneberry, maybe even your thoughts on Scooby-Doo Guess Who, you can always reach out to us on social media. We are on Twitter at Groovy Scoobcast or Facebook, That Groovy Scoobcast. You can also find us on Tumblr at That Groovy Scoobcast, or you can email us at thatgroovyscoobcast@gmail.com.
And while you're at it, check out our website, www.thatgroovyscoobcast.com.
And if you ever just want to talk to us for some reason, because we're kind of cool people, you can find me on Twitter at Derek T. Queen. You can also find Shannon on Twitter at Shanny892, 2 N's, 2 Y's. And while you're at it, also feel free to leave us a review on like iTunes or Stitcher. We do really appreciate when we hear that positive feedback from you guys. If it's positive, I guess. But we do appreciate it though either way.
And if you guys do leave us a review, let us know and we can send you... Do we still have stickers?
We do still have stickers. We'll send you a Planispheric Disc sticker if you do it. Or we'll send you a Scooby snack.
Probably a Planispheric Disc sticker, though.
Yeah, the snack will probably be stale by the time you get it. And with that, we hope that you enjoyed That Groovy Scoobcast.
Come back next week for Scooby Snack Fill time.
Bye, guys.
Bye!